coming to you direct from the nerve center of the galaxy's greatest comic. This is the 2000 AD Thrillcast.
Alright, fellow athletes, and welcome to another 2000 AD Thrillcast. I'm your host, Mulchar. Hope you enjoyed chewing on the 3 hours of podcast excellence from Al Ewing last episode. Thanks for all the great feedback about that interview. This week we've got a bit of a shorter episode because we're busy preparing for Thought Bubble this weekend. I'll be honest, my favourite convention in the calendar, and certainly one that has been great for 2000 AD over the years. I'm joined in the sound booth by editor Matt Smith.
Hello.
And we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up this Thought Bubble weekend. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about the 400th edition of the Judge Dredd Megazine. After all these years, and with some really close shaves, the magazine has survived and continues to thrive. And the bumper edition of Magazine 400 is out in shops now. But Matt, first, let's talk about Thought Bubble. Well, I mean, you've been a few times now. What's your general impression of the show?
Yeah, I mean, it's a comic convention in the truest sense of the word. I think certainly more so than the MCMs and the Showmasters, which tend to rely on the film and TV crowd. Thought Bubble was pretty much a pure comic show, much like sort of the very early UCACs and Bristols used to be. And so it's always great to see them, bringing in so many US talent as well. They seem to get some good names coming over here, as well as the UK artists and writers.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see. I mean, there's been a massive explosion in comic book conventions over the last few years, considering that we used to go to Bristol every year, and that was pretty much it, by and large. And now virtually every town and a few villages in between have got a comic convention. But you're right, they do tend to be, they've got somebody who was in Star Wars, third stormtrooper from the back.
Yeah, I mean they call them Comic Cons, but the comic side of it is pretty minimal these days for these conventions, and a proportion of the audience that's what they're there to see. They want to see a Walking Dead actor, or they want to see somebody that was in Star Wars or Star Trek. And if that's where the money is, I guess good luck to them. But if you're interested in the comic side of things, then Thought Bubble has definitely become the convention to go to, I think.
Because certainly, all these little, as you say, it's where the money is. Getting people in from TV and film. But Thought Bubble's done really well out of just being a comic show. It's never not really busy, and a great crowd and lots of different types of people, and even local people. I've got friends from sort of Leeds and Huddersfield and Bradford who don't read that many comics, and they always enjoy going to Thought Bubble just because it's their sort of one exposure to the medium in a way that they don't get in any other way. So it's always nice to see.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think when Thought Bubble first started, it was just a one-day con, wasn't it? We never, 2000 AD never attended it when it was a one-day con. No, I think the first time we went was when it first grew to a two-day con. And it's just grown bigger now. Now it's gone beyond the halls, and it's now this multiple marquee situation. It'll be taking over all of Leeds before the end of the decade, I think.
Can't wait for that. I mean, in terms of 2000 AD, obviously we'll talk in a second about the panels that we have. With a show that's very focused on comics, is there a value for you as an editor going to a show like that and just getting half an eye on what's out there?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I remember looking around the trade hall in Bristol back in, I don't know, about 2004, 2005, when it was still in the train shed next to the station, and apart from 2000 AD and Tokyo Pop, it was all small press. It was all self-published stuff, and I remember thinking, this seems to be the way comics are going now. Rather than people, making their way through 2000 AD or some other, newsstand title or an American title. They're just making their own comics and just doing it themselves and just put them themselves out through their own means. And that's kind of continued now. When you go around Thought Bubble, you can see more and more people making their own comics, and often these get handed to me. So it's a good opportunity to have a flick through and see what people are doing.
Because we've discussed it before in the podcast how there's not that opportunity to learn your trade in print like there used to be. No,
it's a shame. There is a. Certainly for new artists and writers to a degree who get their first work published in 2000 AD, they're up against a very kind of critical audience who are used to seeing people whose work has, they've already been published for 20, 30 years, and suddenly you've got to be up against the big guys. Whereas back in the 70s, Brian Bolland could learn his chops drawing Power Man or whatever it was, that Nigerian superhero comic he was drawing, and Dave Gibbons was doing some sort of fairly under the radar stuff before he was drawing Dan Dare or whatever for 2000 AD. So it is hard for new artists being published on a wider playing field, really. But there is the less and less opportunities because there's so few, certainly British comics being published these days, that the venues just aren't there anymore.
Let's talk about one of the opportunities, particularly to get into 2000 AD, that we have put out there, which is the 2000 AD Thought Bubble art and script competitions. Now, these have been going for a few years now.
Yeah.
And for those listening who don't know, you get the opportunity to pitch a future shock to a panel who then choose their favourite, and that gets published and you get paid. And with the art competition, you draw from a sample script. We choose a few that we particularly like, and they get put up on a big screen and judged by a panel of art droids, and they too get paid work with 2000 AD. Now, out of this, we've got a few sort of ongoing droids, haven't we? You look at Tom Foster, obvious one is Rory McConville, who's become a regular, and last year's script winner Laura Bailey, and Paul Williams as well, who's one of the art winners. Tell us a little bit about your view on the value of these competitions and what you as an editor get out of them.
Well, I think the prize of having your script and your artwork published in 2000 AD is a valuable incentive. I think it was just sort of like saying, show your artwork and we'll pick the winner and you'll win a graphic novel. Can't quite compare with saying, right, you will now be a published author or artist and you'll be paid for your work. I think that's a good prize, a dangle before any prospective creator. So I think there are good value means to find new writers and artists that not only have the talent but also have the wherewithal to keep it going. The very first DreddCon back in 2000 had a pitch fest, if I remember rightly, won by a young Simon Spurrier, whose Future Shock script got drawn up by Staz Johnson and published in the Prog. And now Simon not only had the talent to win for the best idea and the best script, but he also had the gumption to keep it going and to keep pitching and to keep writing and to keep coming back and as well as working for 2000 AD for many years has gone on and now writing Sandman.
Yeah.
So it's quite a career path to be had from it.
Yeah.
As I said, as well as looking for talented writers and artists, all looking for people who are willing to sort of come back and keep pitching and produce more good ideas and more good stories, which is something we've seen in Rory and Laura and Tom as well, whose artwork has developed over the years. Now, so he's now gone from one-off Future Shock to doing like Storm Warning and stuff like that. So they're very good. There are very good gauges of people's talent.
And can you? I mean, I know you've not done them all for various reasons, but do you feel that the quality of entries has improved over the years as more people have got to know about the competitions?
Yes, I think so. I think with the script pitching, I think people have probably got the knack down now. I think people are becoming a lot more concise in their in getting their story out in a minute, or whether we give the people to do it in
2 minutes on the nose.
And you get the odd fluffer, but I think people are becoming a lot more economical. Some of them get it down to sort of a minute and a half or something like that. And so I think they're becoming a lot more savvy to how to elevate a pitch their story. And the art, I think there's more, a lot of people coming through with the definite potential.
I mean, let's focus on the whole idea of being new talent, because as and anybody who's got any real interest in 2000 AD will know that it has a long established, venerable tradition of bringing new talent in, which then, as you've described with somebody like Simon, has gone on to other things. We obviously have our regular submissions process, which is now open again for the next 6 months. Sometimes I look over and the slush pile looks like it's about to topple over and bury you while you're sat at your desk. It must be hard as an editor to go through that process, because you give advice to everybody, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, everyone that submits and includes an envelope, stamped addressed envelope, will get a reply. It won't be a very long reply. It's boiled down to me basically saying, sorry, I didn't like this, or yes, I thought this had potential. Can you work it up? It's basically comes down to a lot of it of kind of grabbing me within the first paragraph or so of the outline. It's not easy to gauge people's talent on the art side of things, because you can look at a page of artwork and immediately tell whether somebody's ready to work for the prog or not. But with a script, you have to actually sit down and read it and see whether the story works. So it really has to have that punchy opening paragraph to grab me if I'm gonna read further. So you've got about, maybe if I'm going through the submissions pile, and I spend about maybe 5-10 minutes per submission. You've got to get my attention before it goes in the no pile.
I mean, the phrase that you've already mentioned is elevator pitch. I mean, if you, particularly when dealing with Future Shocks, I suppose if you can't boil it down to a sentence or two, then it'd be a good idea to go back and rethink it, really. Yeah. I mean, my pet hate, as is one of my pet hates, is the synopsis that covered an entire page of A4. I really don't need to know the ins and outs of every single thing that happens in the story. Just give me a brief outline of what's going on and who the characters are and what's in. If I like that idea, I'll read further. But I'm not gonna read closely dense type of every single thing that's happening in every single panel. Alan Moore style. But with the submissions pile, I mean, I often see either sort of kind of wondrous hope when people send stuff in, or dark cynicism about whether indeed it is a way into 2000 AD. Have there been times when you've been going through the slush pile and there has been that kind of, I don't know, opening of the suitcase in Pulp Fiction moment?
I mean, I would say, I mean, Al Ewing's work was immediately apparent that he had talent there as a writer. I think the first terror tale he ever published was called Scene of the Crime back in like 2002, I think. and yeah, I just read that and immediately liked it, and it was as it was printed, as it was written in that first submission. There wasn't a huge amount changed to it. You know, it was immediately you could tell from his dialogue and the way the story developed that this was something that was easily of 2000 standards. So yeah, he was somebody who I could immediately see was had a sort of career ahead of him in writing. So yeah, there is the occasionally you suddenly see people with immediate obviously talent, because writing does. I'm kind of the opinion that writing is something you can do naturally, and if you can't do it, it's very hard to teach somebody how to write well. You need to instinctively know what's good writing and what isn't. So I think most people have a natural born talent that you should be able to spot.
One other way that we've introduced to bringing new people is the 2080 Art Stars competition, which we're just getting ready to announce the winner for that. We had 300 entries for this to have a star scan published, and we obviously went for the big gun to begin with. People got to Judge Dredd, and it was interesting to see just how many different versions of Dredd and ideas about what Dredd is there were. Having been through the submissions and without revealing who's actually won yet, what was your impression of the entries?
I thought they took the brief of just drawing Dredd in quite a lot of imaginative ways, which I was impressed by. Some people who weren't necessarily illustrative wasn't their forte necessarily, but they were good at design, and there was some interesting takes on just drawing Dredd and what they did with it. So yeah, I thought a lot of people went in very interesting ways. So which was good to see.
What do you look for in an artist?
Well, I mean, the thing that tends to let people down most of the time, and I feel like a stuck record when I'm telling people this when they're showing me their portfolios at the various cons I've been at since like 2001. Is figure drawing. It's being able to draw the human figure naturally and without it feeling stiff. There's too many people draw it too posed, and it just makes the artwork look ugly if you can't draw people. So the advice I always give is get as much practice as you can drawing people, and go to life drawing classes if you can, because that's the thing you really need to nail. So you can usually tell when looking at somebody's artwork straight away whether they're good at the life drawing or not. Yeah, I mean, I've really just the pencils and inks really just need to be nice and clean and clear, and not overly worked, which is another thing that you tend to see in a lot of kind of self-published stuff. Is they tend to sort of go too heavy on the inks, and it tends to become a bit of a makes the panel look too crowded. Yeah, nicely defined and clean and clear, and whether if they're working from a script, you can tell the story basically without needing speech balloons, which is usually a good gauge of whether they can tell a story or not.
Okay. And what are your hopes from this year's Thought Bubble in terms of the kind of thing that you're looking for? I mean, are you actively on the lookout for new talent? Is there stuff coming in that you think needs new voices?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to find new creators. I mean, there's always a dearth of writers that I think can sort of handle more than just a future shock. So I'll be always keen to find those writers that can do that. So yeah, I'll be always interested to see what people put before me.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the magazine,
Right.
which is out today and 400 issues. I mean, when it launched in 1991, it was
1990.
1990. Sorry, it was a very different beast back then, but nonetheless has still, through all its sort of changes and evolutions, is still there. Incredible. I think even when I was a reader, there were times where I thought, this is on its last legs, but it's scraped through by the skin of its teeth sometimes. But it really feels like it's had a renaissance over the last few years.
Yeah, I've fortunately I've managed to make the magazine almost entirely Dredd-centric material. I mean, it is all Dredd-centric material at the moment. Just there might be the odd little deviation here and there, but and it's almost completely full of new material with the backup GN that it comes bagged with for the reprint. And that's, I mean, it's down to how much money the publisher is willing to spend on it. And fortunately, in the case of Rebellion, they're willing to invest in it. So yeah, I'm fortunate to be in a position now sort of that I can commission this new material, and you can get quality stories like Lawless and Storm Warning and the Dark Judges and Blunt and all the new stories that are starting in 400 alongside Dredd.
What's always been your ethos regarding the magazine?
Well, I was always felt that its raison d'etre was to tell stories from Dredd's universe. I know previous editors have kind of shied away from that a little bit because they felt that you end up with the position that the magazine was in the mid-90s, where you were just sticking a judge in a kilt or a pair of shorts, and that was basically the world. Dredd's world was judges in another country, which I agree got old very quickly. But I do think that the magazine's point is to be set in the same universe. But I think there's plenty of stories you can tell in that universe that don't have to necessarily be purely about judges. So that's kind of my take on the magazine. And again, it's a nice sort of interconnectivity between the stories, because we got Lawless, set on a colony world in which the alien Zind from Insurrection have been mentioned and a planet apart. And in Blunt, which is set on another colony world, you've got the Zinds being mentioned and may possibly be coming back. So you've got this sort of nice sense of this sort of shared universe with them. It's quite nice to do all these stories.
You took over from Alan Barnes, who's the previous editor, to then be editing both 2000 AD and the magazine. What was your feeling when you did that? Was it a case of, finally I've got my hands on all of this, or was it, oh god, how am I going to fit this all in?
Well, no, I mean, I offered to take on the magazine. Right. I mean, when Alan said he was resigning, I said, I thought to myself, oh, I wonder if I could do that as well. So I went to Jason and said, I'll be willing to edit the magazine as well, for a bit of extra money, which was a rather cold hard reason, another reason for doing it. And yeah, I mean to be honest, just editing 2000 AD on its own, wasn't. I've been doing it. I've been editing 2000 AD by that point for like about 3-4 years, and I felt I had it down, kind of, sort of could do with an extra challenge. So so taking on the magazine was something else that I felt I could handle.
Have there been any hairy moments? Because there've been times in, like I said, in the magazine's history when it's been very nearly cancelled. It went heavily on the reprint because we saw Hellboy and Preacher and all sorts of things being reprinted in its pages. Were there any hairy moments for you since taking it over?
In terms of whether the Meg would survive. Well, there was a point not long after I took over when when I took over the magazine, it was perfect bound month, and it was like 84 pages, and it's £4.50. And I felt the material was a bit stretched, and for that money, so I suggested we bring it down to 64 pages, bring the price down to £2.99, and hopefully pick up some readers with a lower cover price. And in retrospect, that was a bad move, because we didn't lose any readers, but we didn't pick up any either. And suddenly the news agents had a magazine that wasn't making as much money as it was when it was like £4.50. So we were being threatened with being delisted from news agents. So we suddenly had to think of, we need to put the price back up again, because news agents like magazines that have a higher cover price because their margins are bigger. So that's when we went back. That's when we decided to bag the reprint section with the magazine, so we could raise the cover price and sort of sell it as a 128 page magazine. So yeah, that was an error on my part. And don't try and make things cheaper unless you're Take a Break magazine, which sells a couple of million every week.
And what do you think? And this isn't meant to be a cynical question. What's the point of the Meg? What do you think is its USP?
As I said, it is to explore Dredd's world.
Right.
Judge Dredd's world is such a vast playground. You can do so much in, and the character is popular enough. They felt that back in the 80s when they were thinking of launching that Judge Dredd Fortnightly that never happened, but would have been like the precursor to the magazine. So the world is wide enough and popular enough to support any number of stories you can tell in it. So that's what the magazine's there for, really. You can tell all these different nooks and crannies of whether it's Mega City 1 or the various other cities, or the people that live in it. So yeah, that's what I think the magazine's there for.
Right. Okay. And as editor for its 400th issue, how do you feel about that, having guided it to this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's always daunting whenever you reach a milestone issue like this, that you have to think, what are we going to do for this one, and come up with something else to celebrate with, that we're all still here. But no, it feels great. I took over the Meg when it was issued 240, I think, something like that. So yeah, I've got about 160 issues under my belt. So yeah, no, I'm glad there. And when Prog 2100 comes out next week, and in 100 Prog's time after that, I will have edited about 1,000 issues of 2000 AD, and then I will feel old.
Highlights then from the past 160 issues of the Meg.
The Meg, yeah. All 3 series of Insurrection. I think that was a really good series that the readers really reacted to. We got some great dreads, including a 3rd instalment of America, which is always good. Got a cover out of Frank Quitely, which I was very, very pleased with.
That was the Inaba one.
Inaba one, yeah. Lawless, another Dan Abnett series, which has really gone down well, which I'm really, really pleased with, and love Phil Winslay's artwork on that. So I think a lot of the stuff that a lot of the stuff that's coming out now, I think I'm very happy with. So I think the Meg's in rude health at the moment.
Let's just talk briefly about the 400th issue, because it's got a gorgeous Chris Weston cover.
Yeah.
We've got John Wagner back on Dredd. We've got Anderson by Alan Grant. We've got Lawless. We've got Blunt. We've got the Dark Judges.
Yeah.
What did you specifically choose these strips as a kind of, I don't know, broad church of the magazine kind of thing, hitting all the notes?
Yeah, I mean, of the three self-contained stories in there, I mean, Dredd was an obvious one, but yeah, I've said to John, can you write a Dredd story for the 400th issue? That he chose a sort of Prince Harry kind of sort of pastiche one. It's purely down to him. And Anderson has been as much a part of the magazine for much of its life as Dredd has. So she was a natural choice. And the third one was Devlin War.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Who I think is another great character to come out of the magazine. I think Swimming in Blood was voted the favourite series of the year when it was ran in 92, I think. So I think he was a good natural choice to go in the 400th issue, and in this story it's been written by Alice Cott, who specifically sort of came to us asking if you write Devlin War because the character meant so much to him. So those are sort of the three kind of characters I think closely associated with the magazine. And then I mean Lawless was one that was good to launch with because it's a popular series, and having the Dark Judges back is always a kind of they're a kind of headline act that guarantees kind of people to pick it up. And David Hine writing the Dark Judges series, it wasn't written for 2000 Other magazine since he wrote Mambo, I think, back in the mid 90s. So it's good to have him back. And Blunt and Storm Warning, and they're all sort of all arranged, all start at the same time, so it'd be a good place for people to pick it up and start reading.
Sure. And looking ahead at the next 400 issues, is there anything coming up in the future for the magazine? Next year we should have the start of this new creator-owned series by John and Carlos called Specter, which is the first character the two of them have created since Al's Baby back in 91, I think that was. So this is a brand new series created by them about a android detective who's hunting down corruption in sort of slightly near future American city. So that should be very exciting. And then we'll have more series for the Returners, and more Anderson and DeMarco, and I think nice to kind of build on the characters we got, and also create some new stuff as well. Right. Brilliant. Okay, lovely. Well, thanks very much, Matt, for that update. Congratulations on 400 issues of the magazine.
That's all right.
And hopefully we'll come away from Thought Bubble with a couple of new droids under our belt, newly commissioned. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Thrillcast. Sorry, it's a bit shorter than normal, but like I said, we're pretty busy getting ready, not just for Thought Bubble this week, but also for New York Comic Con in a fortnight's time. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time with more from the Galaxy's greatest podcast. Splendid Verthrig.
Alert! Fill power levels dangerously high. Alert! Read 2000 AD every week. Ask your comic book store or newsagent now. Subscribe to the Galaxy's greatest comic at 2000ADonline.com. Subscribe digitally on our apps for Apple, Android, and Windows 10. And download DRM free copies from 2000ADonline.com. Alert! Stand by for urgent updates. Search for 2000AD on Twitter and Facebook. Watch the latest videos at youtube.com/2000AD online, and follow on Instagram at Insta2000AD. Program complete. Shutting down.